Cincinnati. No, we went to Columbus, and then he went to Cincinnati. So I was staying in Cincinnati with the guy who owned a courier business, and he was going to courier on a motorcycle for this fella in exchange to let him stay there for a while. It was a family friend, and then he would go back to Sweden or wherever, near Sweden. He said near Sweden, which what is near Sweden? Sweden is a country, but
right.
Anyway, none of that. I didn't question any of that. First of all, I was kind of ignorant to the world at that point, and I was just totally under his spell.
What did the military guys, were they?
They slept the whole time.
They slept the whole time.
The 17-hour bus trip, they pretty much slept the whole trip.
Did they have like just normal uniforms?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't. They just looked like military guys. I can't even remember what branch of the military they were in. They were wearing uniforms, but I can't remember what uniforms were.
So since, say, that book have things like still continued the way, throughout this next like 30 years, have they all continued, or what's going on now?
Well, before I get to that, I just want to tell you this one thing about Pear. His name was Pear.
Okay.
That was so incredible. When we stopped at we stopped at the bus station in Columbus.
Okay.
And I had a layover, and we were going to switch buses. I was going to Indy, and he was going to Cincinnati. We went to the Burger King. Every bus station has a Burger King for breakfast. And there was a weird stop in the middle of the night where the bus driver had just walked out into a field and then back. And then there was a weird stop at a round bus stop out in the middle of nowhere where I was the only one who got off and got something to eat and came back on. He even didn't get off. And then when we got to Burger King and we're eating, we walked in the Burger King and he says, can we stop for a minute? Okay. So we're at the counter at the Burger King ordering, and he says to me, what is orange juice? What is an egg McMuffin or whatever egg croissant? I'm like, what? I said, so I'm explaining to him what all the stuff is on the menu, and this guy says, I'll have one of everything. So he orders one of everything on the menu, 2 trays of the breakfast menu, and it's a limited menu in the bus stop. But so he ate it all. And he's like, this is so good. And in the middle of the conversation, I'm crying. I start feeling bad because we're going to split here in a minute, and I'm never going to see this guy again. And I think to myself, I'm holding back tears, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I don't know if I can leave him. Which is crazy because I'm not like that. Even one point on the bus, he asked me if he could kiss me. And I said, yes. And then I let him kiss me. And then he was like, wow, that was crazy. And I was like, and I felt like, well, he acted like he'd never kissed anybody in his life.
How old do you think he was? What age do you think?
He was born on March 18th, 1954.
That's what he told you? Yes.
And I was born on February 17th, 1959. So we're similar in birth dates. So anyway, that was weird, and that was weird that I would do that because trust me, I slept with my purse wrapped around my neck the whole way there. I don't kiss strangers on the bus.
It's almost like he was reading your mind.
So, but at the table when I thought, oh my God, I'm never going to see him again, and I was about to cry, and I thought to myself, he doesn't even have my phone number, and immediately he looked at me funny. He goes, don't be sad. I promise I'll come back and get you someday. There's this big silver trailer that by where you live that I want to take you to and dance with you. And he says, give me your phone number. For real. So I gave him my phone number, needless to say. And then we're walking to the bathroom. He's like, I don't feel good right here. I feel weird. And I go, well, you're probably going to puke because you ate so much crap. And he goes, what is puke? And I said, that's where all this stuff in here comes back out here. And he goes, maybe. And I had some Pepto-Bismol tablets in my bag. And I said, here, take a couple of these. Maybe it'll help. Pink tablets. He said, oh, that's interesting. What's in that? Do you have the box that they're in? And I said, yeah. And he read the ingredients. He said, And he put it in his pocket. And I said, no, you got to eat them to make them feel. He goes, well, I'll take them later. I said, okay. I go to the bathroom. He starts to follow me into the bathroom. And I'm like, no, Pear, you can't come in with me. This is for the women.
And what was his name?
Pear. P-E-R.
P-E-R, okay.
He said, I said, no, honey, you can't come in with me. This is for women. See the dress? That's me. See that? The pants there? That's you. That's where you go. And I said, I'll be right back. He says, okay. So when I come back out, I open the door and he's like right there at the bathroom door, like he never moved the whole time. I practically ran into him. I'm like, oh, are you done? He goes, yeah, I'm done. So we're walking down. He's walking me to my bus, and I'm starting to bawl. And there's this Amish people sitting on a bench in the bus stop. I swear to God, they're looking at us like we are aliens with 50 eyes. As the two of us hold hands and walk by. He asked me to help him buy a newspaper out of one of those machine boxes. So he's holding the newspaper. And I look at these people and they're like they're looking at us like we're like five-eyeball alien weirdos, and they're not saying anything. They're just like, and they were Amish people. I remember that. And I thought, yeah, he's that cute. That's what I was thinking. I thought they must be thinking, what is she doing with him?
Right. Okay.
You know, at one point he pulls my hair behind my ears like this. And he says, where I'm from, the women wear their hair like this. And he pulls it back real hard, you know. And he says, you would be, you'd be pretty like that. Well, I wore my hair like that for years afterwards. But, right before I got on the bus to leave him, he gives me the newspaper and he opens it up and he hands it to me and opened up in this spot. He says, put your headphones on, turn the radio on, listen to some music, and don't cry. And at this point, it's pouring down rain outside. So, I mean, the world was like my heart felt. And I get in the bus and he said to me, I promise I'll come back for you someday. I will come and get you someday. I promise you. And I get on the bus and I'm bawling and I put the headphones, I turn the radio on and the song starts playing for me. And the song was True by Spandau Ballet. Every time I hear it, I still get goosebumps 25 years later. And I looked down at the newspaper that he had given me and the page that it was opened up to. And it was 2 full-page ads of missing children. All these little children's faces. This is the weirdest bus ride in the history of the planet. I told you this is a book in and of itself that I intend to write. It would make a crazy screenplay. But it was true. It really happened. And Budd confirmed that he was a real person. I remembered enough about him that I did a little bit of self-hypnosis to try to bring up more memory. And I wrote it all down and I called Budd. Budd found him in Cincinnati. He found the courier service. He talked to the guy's friend. The guy told him that he wasn't there at the time. He was out on a run, but he said yes. Pear talked about her. He was smitten with her, obsessed with her. He was very eccentric. He would be missing for years, and nobody would know where he'd be. And all of a sudden, he would show up looking not a day older, with no word. It was like he'd never been anywhere and never acknowledged that he'd been gone all that time. And he was very eccentric. He was also very interested in UFO and paranormal stuff, very much so. That he had something to do with the royal family in that part of the world, and that he also wrote some occasionally for sports, motorcycle racing or whatever, ice racing. Anyways, Budd left him his phone number and he called Budd. Budd talked to him, confirmed that he was a real person, that he had met me, that I talked to him on the phone. At that point, Budd gave me the phone number. I called him. I talked to him. I got the address and I mailed him a little brass coin with the hands like that for him to have with me.
Oh, okay.
To remember me by. He said he got the coin and that he would carry it with him always. And that he would come back for me. And then I cried for weeks over not being around him. And then I started having dreams of him coming to me in my dreams. And one time I was in the hospital and he came to me and wanted to know why I was in this place. And I told him my back was bad. And the next day I woke up and my back was better. And they discharged me. They canceled my MRI and sent me home. One time he came to me in a dream and said he wanted to take me somewhere really cool. And he said, hold my hands. So I held his hands. And all of a sudden everything went black. And I felt really flat. And I said, oh my God, I feel flat. I can't breathe. I feel flat. Everything was black, and I could feel his hands in mine. But his voice was so far away. And he said, oh, shit, you can't come yet. You're not ready. I got to take you back. And I woke up. This is the kicker. Years and years. I tried to find this guy on the internet for years. Finally, did nothing I could find. Finally found the graveyard where he is buried in Sweden. He died in 1985. I met him in 1984. All those dreams I had of him coming to me were after he had already died.
Wow.
What the hell? And I got a friend that says, maybe he didn't really die. Maybe that was just staged. I said, I don't know. But okay, that spun out of this whole UFO thing. Just that one encounter. I got a whole life of weird stuff like this.
So can I switch gears real quick
Sure.
and talk about maybe something that isn't so fun to talk about, but it's something that's part of this whole experience as far as I know, where people, when they're either on a UFO or quote unquote UFO or with the Greys, they'll be given visions of, say, like an apocalyptic happening on Earth. Have you had any of that kind of experience, and can you talk about it?
I've had a reoccurring dream, a triple dream. It always comes one night, 3 nights in a row. First part comes first night, second part comes the second night, third part comes the third night. But first and second come together. So, I mean, it's weird, but it's the same dream 3 nights in a row and a little bit more to it each time. It started when I was a kid, before even June 30th. And it was me laying in a gully, and there was the sky was a weird color of dark, and rain was blowing so hard that it was stinging and going straight across. Wind. I saw red and green streaks in the sky, and the world was like coming apart. You know, it was like the storm of mother of all storms and lightning everywhere. But these red and green streaks, I don't know what they were. And then my goal was to get across this field to this hill. And in the 3 dreams, I'm digging my hands in the mud, and the rain is burning my face as I crawl on the ground on my belly to this hill. And I get to the bottom of this hill, and I look up, and there's a guy standing on the top of it, and he's dry, and the wind doesn't affect him at all. And he's all glowy and white and clean, and he reaches down to me and says, let's go home. And I take his hand and I wake up.
And that happens that's the whole dream over the course
of 3 days. That's the dream. And that's the dream. But in the world, in the dream, in the world, I know that the world is falling apart, that we have trashed it. And we were supposed to be the keepers of this planet and the keepers of all life, and we have messed it up.
Is there any time scale that you can even think that
No, but I feel that it's closer and closer every day. And I feel like we have reached the point of no return. We are past the point of no return. This is inevitable. Nothing lasts forever, including us.
I hear or read in different books where people are shown specifically when they're with a Grey or Greys, that they'll be shown something apocalyptic, And then maybe other times it's that their story is that, they're going to, when this apocalyptic thing happens, that the abductees will be taken somewhere, by the graves.
Well, by my dreams, it would seem as though that was my feeling. But I know for a whole year after the June 30th, 1983 incident, I collected seeds of every kind. My room looked like a botany major's nightmare. Threw up. I mean, my mother would complain about all the crap I had everywhere. And one morning I woke up and it was all gone. And so the first thing I did was like, Mom, what are you doing with all my stuff? You come in here at night when I'm asleep and you just threw all my crap away. And I was mad as hell. And she's like, I didn't take it. And once the stuff was gone, I lost the compulsion to collect it. I used to draw pictures and write words that would come to my head, and I couldn't focus on anything else until I wrote it down or drew it. And then it would leave me alone and I could go on. I would have to pull over on the road sometimes and to write down a phrase or something before I could focus. Or it would wake me up in the middle of the night and I would have to draw this picture and then I could go back to sleep.
Is that still happening? Or
no?
What kind of things did you write down? What kind of thoughts?
That travel, that you can use travel. You can use light to travel. Light for healing. Light for nourishment. You can bend light to travel.
Okay.
That everything that we are seeking, all of our questions about us are in our blood. Look in the blood. Your questions about me are in my blood. Look. I mean, just crap like that.
What about drawings? What kind of...
I drew faces. I drew geometric shapes. And a lot, more than a few, like maybe 5 or 6 of the drawings that I did back in the early 80s showed up as crop circles in the 90s. Which, I'm not the only one who did that. Other people like me did that too. And Colin Andrews, I've become friends with over the years, with a big crop circle investigator. He's aware of this. It means something, but I don't know what it means.
So I just thought of something. So when you were talking about that dream where you'd get on the hill and then you'd see that, did you ever see the person's face?
The face was, I could see the face, but it was so light that I couldn't see
detail.
A lot of detail.
Do you think that it could be when Pear had said, "I'll come back for you one day"? Do you think maybe? Did you ever think, well, maybe? I never
made the connection, but maybe so, because he had long hair. I don't know.
Because you hear about sometimes in this phenomena that there's a lot that happens with it's connected to the dead and the afterlife. It's
you know what? Because I think that when I go, I'm not taking this body with me.
Right.
But I'm not dead.
Right.
And I got involved in the paranormal, in the 2005, 2010, heavily investigating. I was really into EVPs, recording EVPs, and I got a ton of good ones. And it's like some of these voices were like, "Hi, Deb." I mean, they were aware of me. So, and this is when I had an epiphany about death and alternate realities and other life and other dimensions. And I thought, maybe these people were here and we think they're ghosts. They're not dead. They're just another dimension that sort of kind of just brushed by.
So where you live here, it was famous for a time about seeing orbs and orbs of light in the sky. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, I myself have seen the orange balls of light. They call them O-balls. And at one point, I was an investigator for MUFON in Indiana for a while. And actually was put on the case that made national attention in the Kokomo boom, and then, the Discovery Channel came out, UFO Chasers came out.
UFO hunters.
UFO hunters. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've seen them before. I've seen the orange balls of light in the sky. Many people have here. We've had balls of light in our house.
How big?
Not big, like golf ball size. Mm-hmm. One was an eerie green iridescent color. Mm-hmm. And it actually blew all the light bulbs and made the telephone ring and shut the TV off when it appeared in the middle of the living room in front of me and my mom and my 2 boys.
Now, some people that had been interviewed for that had said that, they had gotten feelings of dread, or they had gotten telepathic messages that don't come near, or you could be hurt, or some along those lines. Have you ever had anything like that, like an impression from seeing it? Any kind of a communication?
From the orange ball of light?
Yeah, either those or the balls of light that were, say, in the house.
The ones in the house, no.
Okay.
The ones I saw in the sky, I told you when I came home after stopping out in the road to watch them, and then hurrying home. And as I ran from my car to my front porch to get in the house, I ducked. I felt like I felt very anxious, like somebody was about to reach down from the sky and grab me. I mean, it freaked me out like that. I don't know whether it was coming from that or it was coming from within me because of the other experiences I've had. But I can't say that I've heard someone in my head say things. Right. That's not me.
Okay, one of the things I wanted to just end with was more like, more of the grays, or what you would call the grays. What can you kind of just describe? I mean, did you have you had some close proximity encounters with them? What did they look like to you? I mean, describe them.
They were small, frail, kind of grayish color skin. Their eyes were the most prominent part of them. And they were almost like a liquid, shimmery liquid. Mm-hmm. And they look right through you. Mm-hmm. They had small mouths and a little pinch of a nose, perhaps, but not much else. No hair, long, thin fingers. Mm-hmm. I don't remember how many fingers per se. Mm-hmm. The one that I continually interacted with throughout my life felt almost familiar, and also felt as if I were familiar to him or fond of me for some reason. At one point in my life, probably my 40s, when I started thinking about it, I wondered even if maybe he was related to me, like he was my great grandson or something. Why would they know to come back here? You know what I mean? Or why would they go to anybody? Mm-hmm. There has to be some rhyme or reason for it. It can't be all random.
So you'd see, say, more than one, but this one, you say you kind of knew him.
Several different encounters, and it was the same one. There would be different ones of other ones, but this guy always felt familiar.
But did they pretty much look all the same?
They pretty much look all the same, but this guy felt different.
Did they wear anything? Did they usually wear anything?
Yeah, they had like black clothes on, black suits, jumpsuits, form-fitting, not flowy or capey or any of that. Not that I remember.
They have any? I heard sometimes they would have an insignia of some sort on their uniform. Did you ever see anything like that?
I don't remember anything like that.
And what do you think? I mean, do you think they're from another place in our galaxy? Do you think they're from another dimension? What are your impressions?
My opinions, my feelings about this is that there is more than one kind of life, and there's more than one way there are. I've seen things in my own experiences that almost lead me to believe that some of this that I've experienced is more of a alternate reality, another reality or interdimensional rather than extraterrestrial, like coming from another planet, physically flying here. To me, it feels different than that. It feels closer to that than that.
Okay.
And I drew a drawing one time called Casey's Bubbles, and it was like soap bubbles that were all clustered in this cluster that just kind of hung in space. And each one of these soap bubbles kind of little touched somewhere and made a little smooth surface as they clung together. And in my mind, each one of those soap bubbles is a universe. Okay. And in that little space where they've touched each other and kind of stuck together a little bit in that little tiny space, that's the space where we come and go. And that's sometimes where my EVP recorder picks up something that it thinks it hears. That's, you know what I'm saying? That I tried to draw that to visualize in my mind.
It's kind of like they say that there's, they formulated that there's probably like 11 dimensions, you know, that we can only experience, you know, this universe because of the 3 dimensions that we are accustomed to. But there's...
And that place took me where I felt flat and couldn't stay. I wasn't ready, whatever that means. Maybe it was another dimension or another plane of existence. I fully believe that this life that we see is not all that's here. This is the only thing that we can this is all that we can receive. We're like transistor radios in a Dolby digital surround sound world.
Right.
You know, you can't expect a transistor radio to pick up a television signal.
Right.
A video television signal. That doesn't mean that signal's not in that room surrounding that radio. It just means it can't receive it.
Right.
We can't receive all that's here.
Right, or perceive it, because...
Now, there may be a few of us here that might be wired a little differently that maybe can. Maybe those are the people that are in the mental hospitals.
Right.
You know, maybe that's me. Maybe I'm wired. Maybe I got one extra wired connection in my head somewhere that makes me be able to perceive some of this more than others. I don't know. I think that feels right, but I'm no scientist. I just know what I see.
And then actually the last thing that I wanted to touch on, you had talked about this little experience you had at say a store nearby where you had seen somebody that, can you talk about that? Like
very strange these little things happen to me sometimes daily for weeks and then for years nothing. But I was at Walmart standing in front of the produce section looking at lettuce, salad bags, and I feel someone look at me. So I turn and look, and there's this gentleman standing, I don't know, 20 feet away from me, looking in the produce section. But he's looking at me now. He's tall, he's thin, he's dressed in black, has very dark hair and very dark eyes and very fair skin. He's looking right at me. His body is facing the cooler, but his head is turned, and he's looking directly at me. Eye contact with this weird little smile on his face. And it creeped me out, instantly creeped me out. And I was like, I could feel myself go like that, almost to where he might even have sensed that. And I looked at him and I thought, oh my God, can you hear me? And I thought that in my head. And he just kept looking at me with this crazy smile on his face. And it was so intense that I looked away. I couldn't look anymore. And then when I looked back, he was gone. And I'm like, what the hell? There's no way he could have whipped around that corner. So I took off around the corner. Surely I would see him walking. Okay, no, he's not there. So I go to the first aisle. He's got to be down this first aisle. He couldn't be anywhere else. No, he's not there. I went through this whole store looking for this guy who would have been fairly easy to spot because he was so tall and so dressed in black and kind of weird looking, you know, human, but kind of creepy.
Just weird, yeah.
Kind of gothy almost.
Right.
And nowhere, man, I tore that store up looking for that guy, and I never found him. And I left that place, didn't even buy half the crap that I went there for. I was so creeped out.
And about how long ago did that happen?
It's been a couple years ago.
Oh, okay.
It hasn't been too terribly long ago. It's been a while back, but...
Well, it's still pretty recent.
Yeah. Well, yeah, a couple years, and I'm old.
Right.
A couple years ain't nothing.
Well, hey, I totally totally enjoyed this conversation, and I really have to thank you for just being able to talk about this kind of stuff, because I feel that, you know, this stuff should be talked about
Yes.
in more detail, and so, you know, not just like a, you know, sound bites, you know, that the usual media likes to talk about or do. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Do you have anything you want to maybe plug or talk about or anything like that?
No. I'm just chugging along in life. Maybe one of these days I'm going to write a couple more books. I'm going to write about the bus stop, and I'm going to write another book about all the little weird things like the Walmart stuff, you know, because I've had an incredible life, and hopefully I'm only halfway done.
Right.
I mean, and I've lived through things that other people shouldn't live through, didn't have anything to do with paranormal stuff. I still had an incredible life, and I would like to share it with people.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to reading something like that in the future. And again, thank you so much. And that's it.
Yay.